Good morning. It is coming up to midday on Tuesday, the 1st of September. I'm on my local railway station, Oldfield Park in Bath. Literally my house is over that way, a few hundred yards. I'm just setting off on an overnight wild camp, but unlike my recent trips on a bicycle, backpacking tonight. In about 10 minutes time there'll be a train from Bath Spa stopping here. Now I'll head towards Bristol Temple Meads, change there, get a connection across to Weston-super-Mare, then I'll walk with my backpack from the railway station about half a mile up to the seafront near Grand Pier, get a bus there from Grand Pier along to Sand Bay, and then from Sand Bay, where they drop me off on the bus, it's about half a mile, 3/4 of a mile to my destination, Sand Point. More about that later on. That went all quite smoothly. Just heading up to Tesco's now, get a couple of bottles of water for the camp tonight. I've just come through Cusack Woods on the bus, dropped down to this point here. That's the bus turning point. Gonna have a wander along here, and that peninsula sticking out there, Sand Point, that's my camp destination for tonight. 1st of September, it's a lovely summer's day. Approaching the end of the road now, there's a little turning circle there. As I remember it, yeah, there's a car park there, and then that wall is alongside the steps. You may see them going up steeply onto the top, then walk along. The views get quite spectacular up there. Really looking forward to getting up there now. Gosh, look at that view. I'm at the summit on top of the road, looking back at the Mendips, Sand Bay along there. Up the channel is Clevedon. In the far distance, the 2 Severn Bridges. It's been about 20 odd years since I last went backpacking, so I'm definitely out of practice. So lack of experience, I think I've packed it too heavy. Having said that, I've got 4 litres of water. I was a bit concerned about not having much water, so I've probably overdone the water. And I've got a bottle of wine, and I've got all my frying pans and pots and all the fresh food to do a meal tonight. So onwards, see how far I can get over there before it becomes too rocky to camp. This is about as far as I can go. At the end of Sand Point, there's a big drop coming up, too dangerous to go any further. The tide's in already. Another 3 hours and I should be pretty much surrounded by it. Not quite sure if it's going to be flat enough to camp here. I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to have a go at pitching my tent somewhere around here because I fancy that stone bench there to sit on and chill out this evening. I saw that on Google Earth when I zoomed in. I've walked down from the tent and this is about as far as I can get with it being safe. That would be just a little bit too risky going over onto that outcrop. You can see there must be a lot of rocks underneath the sea there. "6:30 now, it's a lovely evening. I'm just cooking myself a Cajun meal, jambalaya. The jambalaya is just boiling away until it reduces and the rice soaks up all the water, probably about another 10 minutes. Then just fish out the bay leaf, bouquet garni, and it'll be ready to eat. Nice spicy meal. And I've got a bottle of Carver sparkling wine. Cheers. 20 to 7 now. I've just finished cooking the Cajun meal. I'm just leaving it to stand for about 10 minutes just for the rice to absorb the last of the water. Getting quite peckish. It's a lovely evening out. Look at this for a camp spot. Try and get a time lapse of the sun going down later. Jambalaya and wine, sparkling wine at Sand Point. It's now about 7:10 and the sun is still about 30 degrees above the horizon. About 25 minutes until it's high tide. As you can see, almost completely surrounded by the sea. It's not actually an island, so we're not cut off. It's a peninsula. And I could get back to land, but it's just lovely sort of just knowing there's all this sea around us, especially on such a lovely evening. The Cajun meal, it's a recipe I adapted from somebody else's recipe actually. I just minimised it, and to be honest it's probably a bit too much for one person. You can probably see if I zoom in on the plate. I'm struggling to finish it actually. I've actually got a chocolate pudding as a dessert, and to be honest I don't think I'm going to be able to get through that. I'll get through the wine though, that's for sure. It's now about 7:20 and the colours are stunning. The sky is starting to go a slightly darker blue. Sun's still about 15 degrees above the horizon, but I don't think I've ever seen the sea as blue as this here. Looking over towards South Wales now. There's that amazing moonrise behind me above the Mendips looking back over Sand Bay. It's now 8:30 and you can see there's quite a spectacular sunset. It's 9 PM now and I've actually quite fancied my chocolate pudding. Although I cooked a meal from scratch earlier on, which I love doing, there's no way I could cook a pudding of this quality. So when the water boils, I put the sachet in there for 7 to 8 minutes, let it stand for an extra minute, and then literally just tear it. It's perforated at the top, and then eat it out the bag. There's the chocolate pudding then, ready to eat. It doesn't look great, but it actually tastes really good. I think I'll agree with my last review. If I had that in a restaurant, I'd probably be a little bit disappointed, but for camping, I just don't think you're ever going to get anything as good as that. It's now about 9:30, and I'm just sat in the porch of my tent now. The wind's starting to pick up a little bit. It's just getting a little bit too chilly to sit outside in shorts. Fantastic camp, is everything I wanted to be and even more. I suppose the main memory I would take away from this is I thought I'd probably have the place to myself. Well, I was just so wrong. So many people come here, so that was right. So I'll say good night. I'll see you in the morning. Hello, good morning. Well, it's now 7:30 AM on Wednesday morning, and you may tell from the sound, it's quite windy out there. I've just been outside and the views are quite stunning actually this morning, in a reverse way to last night. Because the sun's rising in the east, the islands look much greener, and the other difference is the sea, instead of being blue as it was last night, that lovely blue colour, it's now much more of its reputation, a bit brown and murky, hence the name Western Super Mud, because it's not really a sea here, coast here, it's more of an estuary, which is why the tide goes out a long way. There's a lot of mud banks, and then when the tide comes in, it quite often washes all that up and makes it look cloudy. So this morning the sea looks much browner. And the other big difference, looking up towards the Severn Bridge, last night the sun was catching the towers of the original Severn Bridge, the white bridge, the suspension bridge, the one built in 1966. You could only just make out the newer one in front of it, where exactly the opposite this morning. You can see the towers of the new one, and you can hardly see the old one whatsoever. So I'll go outside and do some filming in a minute, but because it's so windy, I think the wind noise will be unbearable. So my get out of jail card is always been, when it's windy, I'll just take the sound off and overlay some music. So that's what you're going to be seeing outside. And the other thing I should have mentioned was, it's 12 hours since last high tide, so the tide's in again this morning. So I went to sleep with the tide in, and I've woken up with the tide in. By the time I pack up and leave, it should be half out. I'm going to make myself a cup of coffee now, but I'm going to go up to the stone table and do it there. Coffee with an amazing view. I was going to take the coffee and dive back in the tent, although now the sun's up, the wind seems to have dropped a bit. It's actually quite warm here. I have got my puffer jacket on mine and a woolly hat. This morning, for my breakfast, to go alongside my coffee, I've got a Wayfarer all-day breakfast. I'm starting to get the hang of how to cook these actually. This would be the third or fourth one I've done now. The trick, I think, is not to overfill the pan, because when you try and immerse the bag into the boiling water, there's a lot of displacement, so only half boil it, and then maybe before you even boil the water, just manipulate the packet into the shape you wish it almost to become, if that makes sense. It's a lot easier to get it in. And the same as last night, it's quite squishy. It's what they call a wet meal. It's not dehydrated, so it feels quite slushy and a bit disgusting, to be honest. And then I'll immerse that in there for 7 to 8 minutes boiling, then take it out and leave it to stand for a minute. It mostly drains the water off the slippery surface. Then just peel it open and eat out the bag. I'm cleaned my teeth now, washed, changed. I've just packed everything up inside the tent into piles, and I'm going to try and pack the pack inside the tent and then bring it up and lay it on there. When I come to drop the tent, because it's an outer pitch first, it works quite well. I can drop the inner tent, fold it up, bring it up here, weigh it down underneath the pack there, make sure all the ribbons and the bags and everything are weighed down. The fly sheet will still be anchored and tethered down. Obviously take extreme care dropping that, but once you do tend to drop it, once you take the poles out and remove the almost like the aerodynamic shape to it, because it's trying to take off at the moment, in effect, it is a lot easier. It's not going to be the best pack, that's for sure, but it'll get redone at home. Lovely little rocky track through some woods down to the top of the steps and then the steep drop down to Sand Road. I'm back down at sea level now and I'm walking along the edge of the beach. You'll see Sand Point behind me, and rather than walk along the road for the last stretch I did yesterday, I'm just going to walk along here as far as I can. Hopefully it's going to take me to the bus terminus and then head back into Weston. Going to try and get a train around about midday, 1 o'clock. Really want to be through Bristol Temple Meads before rush hour, but I'm certainly not going to rush this walk back. This is just gorgeous this morning. Here comes my bus back to Weston-super-Mare. That open top going through the woods yesterday was pretty impressive. The bus service between Grand Pier and Sand Bay is every 30 minutes until about 6 p.m, so it's quite a regular service. Wow, looking back there, that was magic last night. Back at Bristol Temple Meads, just got about 20 minutes to wait for my connection to Oldfield Park. It's been a fantastic overnight wild camp. I'm going to do more of these over the winter because I believe youth hosteling, which I normally do autumn winter, is going to be just a little bit too expensive for the foreseeable future because of the COVID-19, so I'm looking for new ideas. I'm going to sign off here, so as usual, thanks so much for watching and until next time.